The alien ship moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain HFY looked at the strange object on his screen with all four of his eyes. His insect-like body clicked with worry as he studied the unknown vessel drifting ahead of them. "What do you think it is?" asked his science officer, a tall creature with blue skin and tentacles for arms. The being's name was hard to say in any language except his own. "I don't know," HFY replied. "It's made of metal we've never seen before. The design is very strange. It looks like it should have broken apart years ago." The ship they were looking at was called the Liberty Bell. It had been floating in space for a very long time. Its hull was covered with scratches and dents that would have destroyed most ships, but somehow it was still in one piece. "Sir, we're getting life signs from inside," reported the communications officer. "There are beings alive in there." HFY felt surprised. The ship looked like it had been through battles with asteroids and solar storms. No one should be alive after floating in space for so long. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "We need to see who's inside." The aliens put on their protective suits and crossed over to the human ship. The airlock opened with a loud noise that made them jump. Inside, the ship was much warmer than they expected. Most ships would be freezing cold after drifting in space. They found the crew in sleeping chambers. Jake Morrison, the human captain, was the first to wake up. He sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes. He looked around at the alien visitors and smiled. "Well, hello there," Jake said in a friendly voice. "Thanks for stopping by. We've been having some trouble with our navigation system." HFY stared at the human. Jake looked completely normal, like he had just woken up from a good night's sleep. He didn't seem worried or scared at all. "How long have you been drifting?" HFY asked through his translator. "Oh, maybe 3 or 4 years now," Jake replied. He stretched his arms and yawned. "The life support has been running on emergency power, but it's held up pretty well." The aliens looked at each other with shock. 3 or 4 years on emergency power would kill most species within weeks. How was this human still alive and acting so casual about it? More humans began to wake up. Lisa Hartwell, the second in command, sat up and looked around. "Did we get rescued?" she asked Jake. "That's nice." I was starting to get a bit bored. Dr. Kevin Walsh opened his sleeping chamber and immediately went to check on the other crew members. He noticed that Amy Brooks, their engineer, had a bad burn on her arm. It looked very serious to the alien observers. "Amy, you've got some radiation damage there," Kevin said calmly. He pulled out a small medical kit. "Hold still for a minute." The doctor began treating the burn with simple tools and medicine. The alien medical expert who was watching felt sick. The burn would have killed most species instantly. But Kevin worked on it like it was just a small cut. "There you go," Kevin said after a few minutes. "That should heal up in a day or two. Try to stay away from the reactor room until we get the shielding fixed." Amy looked at her arm and nodded. "Thanks, Doc." It was just stinging a little bit. HFY could not believe what he was seeing. The injury that would mean certain death for his people was just stinging a little bit to these humans. Jake stood up and walked around the ship, showing the aliens where the problems were. "The main engine died about 2 years ago," he explained. "We've been running on backup power since then. The water recycler broke down last year, but Amy rigged up a new one from spare parts." "And the food?" asked the alien science officer. "We've been on emergency rations," Lisa said with a shrug. "They don't taste great, but they keep you alive. We had to cut back to about half portions, but everyone's doing fine." The aliens knew that emergency rations were supposed to last only a few weeks. These humans had been living on them for years and still seemed healthy and strong. "What about the solar storms?" HFY asked. His ship's sensors showed that this area of space had terrible radiation storms that happened regularly. "Oh, those," Amy said. "Yeah, they knocked out our communications and fried some of the electronics. We just waited them out in the shielded areas. They weren't too bad. The storm readings showed radiation levels that would cook most alien species alive. The humans talked about them like they were just bad weather. We also hit a few asteroids," Jake continued. "One of them punched a hole right through the cargo bay. We patched it up with some metal plates and kept going." The aliens looked at the patch job. It was rough and simple, but it had held for years in the cold vacuum of space. Most species would have sophisticated repair systems for such damage. The humans had just slapped some metal over the hole and moved on. Dr. Walsh finished checking all the crew members. "Everyone looks good," he reported. "A little tired from the long sleep, but nothing serious. We should be ready to go wherever you're taking us." "You're not injured or sick?" HFY asked in amazement. "No, we're fine," Jake said. Just glad someone found us. We were starting to think we might have to walk home. He laughed at his own joke. The aliens didn't understand that humans couldn't actually walk through space, but Jake's casual attitude about their terrible situation made them feel very uncomfortable. As they prepared to transfer the humans to their ship, Zexai sent a message to his commanders. He tried to explain what he had found, but the words didn't seem strong enough. How could he tell them about a species that survived impossible conditions and called it just another day? The humans gathered their few belongings and prepared to leave their damaged ship. They seemed excited to meet new people and see new places. They had no idea that everything they had just survived would be considered miraculous by the rest of the galaxy. "Thanks again for the rescue," Jake said as they boarded the alien ship. "We really appreciate it." "Where are we heading?" Zexai looked at the human captain and felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. These beings had just described years of conditions that would destroy entire fleets, and they acted like it was just a minor inconvenience. What exactly had they just rescued? The Federation station Nexus 7 was huge. It floated in space like a small metal moon, home to thousands of different alien species. Jake Morrison and his crew stood at the viewing window of their guest quarters, looking out at the busy traffic of ships coming and going. "This place is amazing," said Lisa Hartwell. "Look at all those different ships. I've never seen designs like that before." The humans had been on the station for 3 days now. The Federation Council wanted to learn about them before making any big decisions. Sam Miller, who had been a diplomat back on Earth, was handling most of the official meetings. Carol Davis, their xenobiologist, was having the time of her life studying all the new alien species. "The gravity here is really light," Amy Brooks mentioned as she walked across the room. "I keep feeling like I'm going to float away." What Amy didn't know was that the station's gravity was actually set to what most aliens considered normal. To them, the humans looked like they were moving through thick liquid, every step controlled and powerful. Dr. Kevin Walsh was in the medical bay working with alien doctors. They wanted to understand human biology, and he was happy to help. The alien medics were amazed by how quickly his small cuts healed and how strong his immune system was. "Your blood pressure would kill most species," said Dr. Vexhai, a tall alien with gray skin. "And your heart rate during exercise, it's incredible that your body can handle it." Kevin laughed. "Really? I always thought I was pretty average. Maybe I should work out more." The alien doctor made notes with shaking hands. This human considered his superhuman vital signs to be pretty average. Meanwhile, Jake was in the recreation area with several alien dignitaries. They had suggested some friendly games to help everyone get to know each other better. A Thraxian warrior named Gorthax had challenged Jake to an arm wrestling match. The Thraxians were famous throughout the galaxy for their strength. Gorthax was 7 feet tall with muscles like iron cables. His people had conquered dozens of worlds through pure physical power. He was confident this would be an easy victory against the small human. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked politely. "I don't want anyone to get hurt." Gorthax laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Do not worry, little human. I will be gentle." They sat down at the table and locked hands. A crowd of aliens gathered to watch. Most of them felt sorry for Jake. They thought the human was about to be embarrassed. "Ready?" asked Lisa, who was acting as referee. "Go." Jake wasn't really paying attention to the contest. He was looking around the room, chatting with Lisa about what they should have for dinner. His hand stayed perfectly still while Gorthax pushed with all his strength. "These aliens have really interesting food," Jake said casually. "I tried something called purple kelp yesterday. It was pretty good." Gorthax was turning red with effort. His massive muscles strained and bulged. Sweat began to pour down his face, but Jake's hand didn't move even a tiny bit. "Oh, sorry," Jake said, suddenly remembering the contest. "I got distracted." Without any visible effort, he slowly pushed Gorthax's hand down to the table. The room went completely silent. Gorthax stared at his defeated hand in shock. Jake had beaten the strongest warrior in the galaxy while discussing lunch plans. "Good match," Jake said with a smile. "Want to try again?" Gorthax shook his head and walked away quickly. Within an hour, news of his defeat had spread to every corner of the galaxy. In another part of the station, Amy was helping repair some broken equipment. The station engineers had asked for her help because humans seemed good with technology. She was trying to be very careful with the delicate tools. "Oops," she said as a wrench bent in half in her hands. "Sorry about that. I guess I gripped it too hard." The alien engineers watched in horror as she accidentally destroyed tool after tool. She was trying to be gentle, but her gentle was still strong enough to crush solid metal. "I'm really sorry," Amy said, looking at the pile of broken equipment. "I'm usually not this clumsy. Maybe I'm just tired from the trip." One of the engineers fainted. Amy had just bent a titanium composite wrench into a pretzel, while apologizing for being clumsy. Back in the medical bay, an emergency alarm went off. A Zolonian diplomat had been injured in an accident. His species was very fragile, and the injury looked fatal. The alien doctors were panicking because they didn't know how to save him. "Let me take a look," Dr. Walsh said calmly. He examined the patient quickly. "Okay, this doesn't look too bad. I'll need to do some surgery, but it should be pretty straightforward." The alien doctors watched in amazement as Kevin performed what he called standard emergency surgery. His hands moved with impossible precision and speed. He repaired damage that the best alien surgeons considered hopeless. "There we go," Kevin said an hour later. "He should be fine in a few days. Just keep him resting and make sure he takes his medicine." The Zolonian diplomat, who had been dying, was now sitting up and talking. The alien doctors immediately began calling colleagues around the galaxy. What they had just witnessed was beyond miraculous. Carol Davis was in the science lab, talking with alien researchers about human biology. She was trying to explain how humans evolved, but the aliens kept asking her to repeat things. "So you're saying your planet has predators that hunt in packs?" asked a small furry alien. "Oh yes," Carol replied cheerfully. "Wolves, lions, bears, sharks, snakes, spiders. Earth has lots of dangerous animals. That's probably why humans learn to use tools and work together." The aliens looked terrified. Most of their worlds had gentle creatures that ate plants. The idea of a planet full of predators sounded like a nightmare. "And your people learned to hunt these creatures?" another alien asked. "Sometimes," Carol said. "Though mostly we just learn to avoid them or scare them away. Humans aren't really built for fighting big predators. We're better at persistence hunting." "What is persistence hunting?" the furry alien asked nervously. "Oh, that's when you chase an animal until it gets too tired to run anymore," Carol explained. "Humans are really good at running long distances. We can outlast almost any animal on Earth." The aliens exchanged worried looks. These humans were describing hunting methods that sounded like torture to most galactic species. As the day ended, the human crew gathered in their quarters to talk about their experiences. They all agreed that the aliens were very friendly and interesting. "Everyone here seems really nice," Jake said. "Though I'm worried about that warrior I arm wrestled. I hope I didn't hurt his feelings." The engineers seemed a bit nervous. Amy added, "I think they are not used to working with their hands much. Their tools break really easily." None of the humans noticed the Emergency Federation Council meeting that was happening right at that moment. Alien leaders from across the galaxy were trying to figure out what to do about these strange, impossibly powerful beings who seemed completely unaware of their own capabilities. The humans went to sleep peacefully, looking forward to another day of making new friends. They had no idea that they had just terrified some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy simply by being themselves. General Vorthak was not happy. The military leader of the Hegemony Alliance stood in the Federation Council chambers, his armored body clicking with anger. He had traveled across the galaxy to see these humans for himself. "We need to know exactly what we're dealing with," he announced to the gathered alien leaders. "I demand a full assessment of their capabilities." Captain Jake Morrison sat in the council chambers looking a bit confused by all the attention. He had agreed to some tests, thinking it would help the aliens understand humans better. He didn't understand why everyone seemed so serious about it. "We just want to make sure everyone stays safe," explained Council Leader Zephyra, a wise old alien with multiple arms. "These tests will help us understand your people better." "Sure, no problem," Jake replied with a smile. "We're happy to help. What kind of tests are we talking about?" The testing facility was enormous. It had been built to challenge the strongest and smartest beings in the galaxy. Elite warriors from dozens of species had trained here. Most of them had failed the easier tests. Pete Johnson looked around the facility with interest. He was a construction worker who had been on the Liberty Bell to help build some new equipment. He was a big man with strong hands and a friendly smile. "This place is really something," Pete said. "Reminds me of the gym back home, just bigger." The alien technician showed him to the strength testing area. There were machines designed to measure lifting power, crushing force, and endurance. The highest scores belonged to warriors who were legends throughout the galaxy. "Just do whatever feels comfortable," said the head technician, a nervous creature with too many eyes. "Don't push yourself too hard." Pete nodded and walked over to the first machine. It was designed to test lifting strength. The current record was held by a Thraxian champion who could lift twice his own body weight. Pete looked at the controls and shrugged. "Looks simple enough," he said. He grabbed the handles and lifted easily. The machine's display showed numbers that made the technicians gasp. Pete had just broken the record without even trying. "Is this thing working right?" Pete asked. "It feels way too light." The technicians checked the machine frantically. It was working perfectly. Pete had just lifted what should have been impossible weight and was complaining that it wasn't heavy enough. "Maybe try the next level?" suggested one of the aliens. Pete moved to a machine designed for the absolute strongest beings in the galaxy. It was supposed to be impossible for most species to even move the weights. Pete lifted them like they were made of paper. "This is still pretty easy," he said. "Don't you have anything heavier?" The aliens didn't have anything heavier. Pete had just broken every strength record in their database while asking for more weight. In another part of the facility, Nancy Clark was taking flight tests. She was the Liberty Bell's pilot, a calm woman with steady hands and sharp eyes. The alien flight instructors had put her in their most advanced simulator. "This test is designed to be impossible," explained the flight instructor. "We use it to see how pilots handle stress when there's no way to win." Nancy looked at the controls and nodded. "Okay, sounds interesting. What's the scenario?" "You're flying through an asteroid field during a solar storm," the instructor said. "Your ship is damaged, you're running out of fuel, and there are enemy ships chasing you. Most pilots crash within the first few minutes." Nancy cracked her knuckles and took the controls. "All right, let's see what happens." The simulation began. Asteroids flew at the ship from all directions. Lightning from the solar storm lit up the screen. Enemy fighters fired weapons that would destroy any normal pilot. Nancy flew through it all like she was driving to the grocery store. Her hands moved over the controls with perfect precision. She dodged asteroids by inches, used the solar storm to hide from enemies, and somehow made her damaged ship do things it wasn't supposed to be able to do. "How is she doing that?" whispered one of the alien observers. "I don't know," replied the flight instructor. "She's making the ship dance." Nancy completed the impossible test in record time. She turned around in her seat and smiled. "That was fun. Do you have any harder ones?" The alien stared at her in shock. She had just achieved a perfect score on a test designed to be impossible, and she was asking for something more challenging. The most disturbing test was happening in the psychology lab. Dr. Kevin Walsh had volunteered for what the aliens called their ultimate stress test. It was designed to break the strongest minds in the galaxy. The test put subjects in a virtual reality where they had to make horrible choices. In the simulation, Kevin was the doctor on a damaged ship. He had to choose which of his friends to save when there wasn't enough time or medicine to save everyone. Most aliens couldn't even start the test. Those who tried usually broke down crying or became so stressed they had to be hospitalized. The few who finished it were changed forever by the experience. Kevin put on the virtual reality helmet and started the test. The simulation showed him his friends and crewmates injured and dying. He had to decide who lived and who died based on their chances of survival and their value to the mission. The watching aliens expected him to break down immediately. Instead, Kevin went to work. He examined each patient quickly, calculated their chances, and made his choices with calm efficiency. "Okay, Lisa has the best chance of recovery," he said to himself. "Jake is critically injured, but he's the captain, so he gets priority. Amy is stable for now, so she can wait." He worked through the simulation like he was solving a math problem. He saved who he could save and accepted who he couldn't. When difficult choices had to be made, he made them quickly and moved on. The test ended with Kevin having saved more people than any subject in the history of the facility. He took off the helmet and looked around. "That was pretty stressful," he said calmly. "Is there a coffee machine around here? I could use some caffeine." The alien psychologists were horrified. What they had designed as torture, this human had treated like a normal workday. The choices that would haunt other species for life, Kevin had made and forgotten within minutes. General Vorthak watched all the test results with growing alarm. These humans weren't just strong or smart or tough. They were all of those things at levels that broke every scale the Federation had for measuring such things. What kind of world creates beings like this? He asked Council Leader Zephyra. We're about to find out, she replied. More humans are coming. Their scientists want to study our reaction to their people. As the testing day ended, the human crew gathered together to talk about their experiences. They all agreed it had been interesting, but nothing too challenging. The strength tests were okay, Pete said, though I wish they had heavier weights. I barely got warmed up. The flight simulation was fun, Nancy added. It reminded me of flying through those thunderstorms back on Earth. Remember those crazy storms we used to get in Kansas? Dr. Walsh nodded. The psychology test was well designed. It reminded me of my residency at the trauma center. We had to make those kinds of decisions every day. The humans talked about the tests like they were mild entertainment. None of them realized that they had just shattered every performance record in Federation history. They thought they had performed normally, maybe even a bit below their usual standards. Outside their quarters, alien guards stood watch with nervous expressions. These beings could accidentally destroy the station if they decided to stretch their legs too vigorously. The Federation was starting to understand that they weren't dealing with just another new species. They were dealing with something that shouldn't exist, something that made legendary warriors look weak and impossible tests look easy. And the most terrifying part was that the humans genuinely didn't seem to notice how frightening they were. Tomorrow, more humans would arrive, and the Federation was beginning to realize that their galaxy might never be the same again. The research vessel New Frontier arrived at Federation Station Nexus 7 3 days after the testing was complete. Dr. Alan Rivers stepped off the ship with a smile, followed by psychologist Helen Foster and a small team of Earth scientists. They had come to study how aliens reacted to meeting humans for the first time. This is so exciting, Dr. Rivers said to the Federation Welcoming Committee. We've never had a chance to study first contact from this angle before. Council Leader Zephyra greeted the new humans carefully. After watching the previous crew break every record in their databases, she was treating all humans like walking weapons. Welcome to our station, she said nervously. We hope your stay will be peaceful. Dr. Rivers looked puzzled by her tone but smiled anyway. Thank you. We're just here to do some research and learn about your cultures. Nothing dangerous. The word dangerous made several aliens step backward. After what they had seen, everything humans did seemed dangerous. Dr. Rivers met with Federation scientists in the main research lab. He was an anthropologist who studied how different cultures interacted. He was excited to compare notes with alien researchers who had been studying the first human crew. So what did you think of Captain Morrison and his people? Dr. Rivers asked cheerfully. Dr. Vexhai, the alien medical expert, looked uncomfortable. They were unusual, he said carefully. Their biology is very different from what we expected. Oh yes, Earth biology is pretty interesting, Dr. Rivers agreed. We humans are adapted for a fairly challenging environment. Challenging? Dr. Vexhai repeated. Could you explain what you mean? Dr. Rivers pulled up some data on his tablet. Well, Earth has about 1.2 times the gravity of most inhabited worlds we've studied. Our atmosphere is quite dense with a lot of oxygen. And our sun puts out some pretty intense radiation. The alien scientists looked at each other with growing horror. Dr. Rivers was describing conditions that would be lethal to most of their species, and he was calling them fairly challenging. What about the life forms on your world? Asked another alien scientist. Oh, Earth has some really fascinating biodiversity, Dr. Rivers said enthusiastically. We've got everything from tiny bacteria that can survive in boiling acid to massive predators that hunt in coordinated packs. He showed them pictures on his tablet. Lions stalking prey across African plains, great white sharks launching themselves out of the water, grizzly bears standing 9 feet tall, venomous snakes and spiders, crocodiles that could crush bones with their jaws. These creatures live on your homeworld? Dr. Vexhai asked in a whisper. Oh yes, and thousands more like them, Dr. Rivers replied. That's why humans developed such interesting survival traits. We had to be tough and smart to compete with all that. Helen Foster joined the conversation. She was studying how the Federation aliens were dealing with learning about humanity. She noticed that they all seemed very stressed. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked Dr. Vexhai. "You look a bit pale." "I'm fine," the alien doctor lied. "Please continue explaining about your world." Dr. Rivers was happy to continue. He showed them data about Earth's weather patterns. Hurricane winds that could destroy buildings, tornadoes that threw cars through the air, blizzards that buried entire cities, droughts that lasted for years. Humans learned to adapt to all of this, he explained. That's why we developed such good endurance and problem-solving skills. When your environment tries to kill you regularly, you get pretty good at surviving. The alien scientists were taking notes with shaking hands. Earth sounded like a nightmare world from their worst horror stories. Biologist Martin Young joined the meeting and added even more disturbing information. He had brought samples of human blood and tissue to share with alien medical researchers. "Human healing is really fascinating," he said, as he prepared the samples. "Watch this." He took a small knife and made a tiny cut on his finger. The alien doctors gasped in horror at the sight of blood. But within minutes, the bleeding stopped. Within an hour, the cut had sealed itself completely. "That's impossible," Dr. Vexhai whispered. "Wounds don't heal that fast." "Oh, this is pretty normal for humans," Martin said. "Our immune systems are very aggressive. We have to be, with all the bacteria and viruses on Earth trying to infect us." He showed them microscopic images of human immune cells attacking invaders. The alien doctors watched in fascination and terror as human white blood cells destroyed threats that would kill most galactic species. "Your immune system would attack our medicines as foreign invaders," one alien doctor realized. "Probably," Martin agreed. "Human immune systems don't take chances. If it's not supposed to be there, they try to destroy it immediately." Meanwhile, engineer Lucy Bennett was in the station's workshop, helping to repair some equipment. The aliens had asked her to look at their tools and machinery to see if humans had any suggestions for improvements. "Your manufacturing is really impressive," Lucy said as she examined an alien device. "But I think you could make these components stronger." She picked up a piece of metal that was supposed to be unbreakable and bent it slightly to show the aliens where it was weak. The metal snapped in half. "See? Right there," she said, pointing to the break. "If you reinforced that joint, it would be much more durable." The aliens stared at the broken piece. That metal was supposed to withstand the pressure of deep space. Lucy had just snapped it with her bare hands while trying to demonstrate a minor design flaw. "I'm sorry," Lucy said, noticing their expressions. "I didn't mean to break it. I was trying to be gentle." The alien engineers made notes about human gentle being strong enough to destroy their strongest materials. Back in the research lab, Dr. Rivers was explaining human evolution to increasingly terrified alien scientists. Early humans were persistence hunters, he said. They would chase large animals for hours or even days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. "Days?" Dr. Vexhai asked weakly. "Oh yes, humans have incredible endurance," Dr. Rivers explained. "We can run moderate distances for hours without stopping. It's how our ancestors caught food. The aliens imagined being chased by humans for days until they died of exhaustion. It sounded like the most horrible way to die they could imagine." "What about human conflicts?" asked another alien scientist. "How do your people handle disagreements?" Helen Foster looked thoughtful. "Well, humans try to avoid violence when possible. We prefer to talk things out. But when conflicts do happen," she paused, trying to think of how to explain human warfare to beings who had never experienced anything like it. "Let's just say that humans are very good at organized conflict," she said carefully. "Our military trains people to be less efficient than they naturally are, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair to the enemy." The alien scientists stared at her. Human soldiers were trained to hold back their natural abilities because they were too powerful for fair combat. Dr. Rivers nodded. "Human military doctrine focuses a lot on restraint and proportional response. We learned early that unrestricted human warfare tends to be excessive." The Federation scientists were beginning to understand something terrible. Humans weren't trying to be frightening. They were actually holding themselves back. What they had seen so far was humans being gentle and careful. "Dr. Rivers," Dr. Vexhai said quietly, "what would happen if humans decided to expand aggressively into the galaxy?" Dr. Rivers looked surprised by the question. "Oh, humans aren't really interested in conquest. We prefer exploration and trade." "Why do you ask?" Just curious, the alien doctor replied. He didn't want to explain that the Federation was beginning to realize they were completely helpless if humans ever decided to become hostile. As the day ended, the alien scientists met in private to discuss what they had learned. The picture they were getting of humanity was more terrifying than their worst fears. Humans came from a world that would kill most aliens within hours. They had evolved to survive conditions that were beyond the imagination of most galactic species, and they considered all of this to be perfectly normal. The Federation was facing a species that could accidentally destroy civilizations while trying to help them, and the humans genuinely didn't understand why anyone would find them frightening. The galaxy was about to become a very different place. The Emergency Federation Council meeting had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in the Great Chamber, all trying to figure out what to do about humanity. The debate was getting heated, but everyone was trying to keep their voices down. 3 humans were sleeping in guest quarters just 2 levels below, and nobody wanted to wake them up. We need new protocols, Council Leader Zephyra announced. Not because humans are hostile, but because they might accidentally destroy us while being helpful. Admiral Korth West of the Stellar Navy stood up to speak. My analysis shows that a single human ship could defeat our entire battle fleet without trying. They wouldn't even realize they were in a fight. That's impossible, argued Representative Veltar from the Merchant Guild. No species could be that powerful. Watch this, Admiral Korth West said. He played a recording from the station's security cameras. It showed Roy Parker, a maintenance worker from the New Frontier, walking down a corridor. Space pirates had attacked the station that morning. They were a vicious group called the Blood Claws who had terrorized the sector for years. Their leader, Skartok, was a 7-foot-tall monster with razor-sharp claws and armor that could stop laser blasts. In the recording, Roy was carrying some tools to fix a broken air recycler. He was humming a little song and seemed completely relaxed. He turned a corner and bumped into 3 heavily armed pirates. "Oh, excuse me," Roy said politely. "Are you guys lost?" "This area is supposed to be off-limits during the station lockdown." Skartok snarled and raised his claws. "Stupid human. We are the Blood Claws. We take what we want." Roy looked confused. "I'm sorry, but I don't think you're supposed to be here. Could you please come with me to security?" The pirate leader lunged at Roy with claws that could cut through steel. Roy caught his arm gently like he was stopping a child from running into traffic. "Whoa there, buddy," Roy said. "Careful with those claws. You could hurt someone." Skartok tried to pull free, but Roy's grip was like being held by a mountain. The pirate's armor began to crack under the pressure of Roy's gentle hold. "Let me get security to sort this out," Roy continued. He reached for his radio with his free hand. As he moved, his elbow accidentally bumped into another pirate. The alien flew across the corridor and stuck to the wall like he was made of jelly. "Oops, sorry about that," Roy said. "I didn't see you there." The third pirate tried to run away. Roy reached out and grabbed him by the shoulder. "Hey, wait up. You guys should probably stick together." His grip cracked the pirate's exoskeleton. The alien fainted from pain and shock. "Are you okay?" Roy asked with genuine concern. "Maybe you should sit down. You don't look so good." By the time security arrived, Roy was sitting in the corridor with 3 unconscious pirates, trying to wake them up and asking if they needed medical attention. He had defeated the most feared raiders in the galaxy while trying to be polite and helpful. The Federation Council watched the recording in stunned silence. Roy hadn't even realized he was in a fight. To him, he had just encountered some confused visitors who needed to be gently guided to the right place. "The pirates are in therapy now," Admiral Korth West reported. "They keep talking about the humans' terrible kindness and asking why he didn't just kill them quickly." Diane Murphy, an accountant from the New Frontier, had also helped during the pirate attack. She had been in the financial records office when more pirates burst in to steal the station's money. "Please don't do that," she had said politely as they began breaking into the secure computers. "That information is private." The pirates had laughed and told her to mind her own business. Diane had walked over and gently taken their weapons away. To her, she was just removing dangerous items from people who might hurt themselves. To the pirates, it felt like their weapons were being pulled away by an unstoppable force. "I'll hold on to these until you calm down," Diane had said, accidentally crushing the energy weapons into metal balls as she spoke. Someone could get hurt. Council Leader Zephyra stood up to address the chamber. We've analyzed the humans' behavior patterns. They genuinely don't understand their own capabilities. They think they're weak and fragile. Dr. Vexhai had been studying human psychology reports. Their cultural records show that humans consider themselves to be squishy and breakable. They have sayings like, fragile as human life and only human to describe weakness and limitation. The council members looked at each other in disbelief. These incredibly powerful beings thought they were delicate and weak. What's worse, Dr. Vexhai continued, is that by their own standards, they're right. Compared to their planet's environment and the other life forms on Earth, humans are relatively fragile. Representative Muldar from the Science Consortium shared her analysis. We've studied their homeworld data. Earth is so dangerous that humans evolved elaborate social structures just to survive. They work together because individuals can't handle the environment alone. So what happens when they discover they're the strongest species in the galaxy? Asked Admiral Korthwest. We don't know, Zephyra admitted. But we need to be prepared for any possibility. Commander Bill Hayes from the New Frontier was in the observation lounge, talking with some Federation diplomats. He had no idea that his casual conversation was terrifying them. It's been great meeting everyone, Bill said with a friendly smile. Earth is really excited about joining the galactic community. We have so much to learn from you. What does Earth hope to contribute? Asked Ambassador Yexhai nervously. Oh, lots of things, Bill replied. We're good at solving problems and building things. And if anyone needs help with dangerous situations, humans are pretty good in a crisis. The aliens imagined humans helping with dangerous situations and felt sick. What humans considered helpful might destroy entire star systems. We always carry extra life support and emergency supplies, Bill continued. You never know when you might get stuck in dead space for a few decades. It's just basic safety. The diplomats stared at him. Humans planned for situations that would kill entire fleets, and they called it basic safety. What if you encountered hostile aliens? Ambassador Yexhai asked carefully. Bill looked thoughtful. Well, we'd try to talk to them first. Humans believe in diplomacy, but if they were really determined to hurt people... He paused and shrugged. I guess we'd have to stop them. Humans are pretty protective of innocent people. We don't like bullies. The ambassador made mental notes. Humans would stop hostile aliens and didn't like bullies. Coming from beings who could accidentally crush starships, those were the most terrifying threats the Federation had ever heard. Dr. Alan Rivers was finishing his research report on alien psychology. He was fascinated by how different species reacted to stress and new situations. It's interesting how nervous everyone seems, he told Dr. Helen Foster. I think they're overwhelmed by first contact. We should be extra careful to put them at ease. Helen nodded. They do seem very anxious. Maybe we should tone down our enthusiasm a bit. We don't want to make them uncomfortable. The humans had no idea that their attempts to be less overwhelming were like a hurricane trying to be a gentle breeze. Even their most careful behavior was beyond what most aliens could handle. As the Federation Council meeting continued, one terrible truth became clear. Humanity wasn't a new member species to be welcomed into the galactic community. They were a force of nature that had somehow learned to talk. The galaxy now contained beings who could survive impossible conditions, fight wars with their bare hands, and travel between stars in ships held together with hope and determination. And these beings thought they were normal, everyday people just trying to make friends. The Federation would have to rewrite every law, rebuild every defense, and rethink every assumption about what was possible in the universe. Not because humans were conquerors or warriors, but because they were so impossibly powerful that their kindness was more dangerous than anyone else's hatred. The most terrifying thing about humans wasn't their strength, their endurance, or their intelligence. It was that they genuinely had no idea why everyone else was so frightened of them. They thought they were just ordinary people being friendly neighbors, and maybe in a way that's exactly what they were. It just so happened that ordinary humans were the most extraordinary things the galaxy had ever seen. The Federation Council would eventually create new protocols for dealing with humanity. Special guidelines for species of overwhelming capability, rules for how to interact safely with beings who could accidentally end civilizations while trying to help. But first, they had to figure out how to explain to the humans that they weren't normal, without hurting their feelings. Because the last thing anyone wanted was to make humanity feel unwelcome. A sad human was still a human, and the galaxy wasn't ready for that level of catastrophe.